Motion sports became all the craze with the release of the Nintendo Wii console, and many other companies tried to cash in on this trend. Microsoft, years later, released the Kinect accessory for the Xbox 360 and had several games come out with it with millions of dollars with budgeting. They tried to push this and promote this and offered several games that either could use the Kinect as a controller as an option or was a Kinect only game. In today's video, we're looking at the worst of the worst bad games, the worst of the Kinect games to come out, in my opinion. You're going to have your picks. I know I have mine. So I have chosen five games from the library of Kinect games, and these games are truly bad. So sit back, relax. You may want to grab your popcorn. Here we go. Kinect came out November 4th, 2010. One of the cooler releases for the original Xbox was Steel Battalion, and what made it cool was the awesome controller it came bundled with. The problem was it was expensive and had a price of $150 for the 360. Typically it was bundled with Kinect Adventures, but other games were included later on. It also was offered for Windows PC in 2012, as well as a second version was bundled with the Xbox One. First up is Motion Sports Play for Real, and this was a launch title. There's several calibrations and tweaks that you have to do initially to make sure that your Kinect is properly set up, which I did. And there's one of 6 mini games. That's the first issue. It's not really offering a full sports experience. You're either running or dodging or passing the ball for football. It's not a full football game. I found that the controls were wonky at best. It half worked. Half the time it didn't, no matter what I did, no matter where I positioned myself in my room. Lighting, space, didn't matter. Well, maybe soccer's better. Nope. No matter what I did, half the time, especially when I was a goalie, it just was really hard to totally get the ball every time. Half the time I was able to successfully do it. The other half, it didn't even respond. I found, especially trying to score a goal, especially being a left footer, I was able to successfully get a goal almost 80% of the time. Kicking into the right corner with my left foot, it was just easy to score a goal. But, you know, being a goalie was a much different experience and very, very frustrating, as I found myself about 50% of the time getting scored upon no matter how I moved. It just wasn't properly working. The best of the worst is probably hang gliding, but even that, I wasn't successful. I probably could play it more, but, you know, honestly, it just wasn't that fun, and the motion controls just weren't working. I also had high hopes for Fighters Uncaged, an illegal fighting game promising over 70 different moves. You know, you watch the introduction of several of these games, it looks promising. You know, a fighting game with motion controls seems like a natural fit. And this, again, was an early release, and I don't know, I just had expectations of it being different. You know, I like fighting games, I'm a casual fighting game fan, and if I was to get a Kinect back in the day, this would be probably a game I would consider. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to jump right into the action. I want to skip lessons. I want to just jump into fight. And unfortunately, you can't really do that in this game. You are introduced to one of the most boring tutorials and completely unnecessary. I get that they want to introduce you to the moves, but this could have been done in like a minute or 2-minute session. So many games of this era had these long, drawn-out tutorials, and it completely destroys the excitement of this generic fighter. And first and foremost, that's what it comes down to. It becomes a completely boring fighting game in which you're wailing around, trying to get moves in, and it just doesn't work as it was intended to. All those moves that they promise, it just comes down to you flailing. Often I wasn't detected by my sensor. I tried recalibrating it. Complete fail and an utter joke for a game. Steel Battalion, one of the best original Xbox releases for its amazing controller that came bundled with it. The problem is, though, it was really expensive and still really expensive. It made perfect sense for Capcom to possibly offer an affordable version of Steel Battalion using the Kinect controller, but then I started to play the game. Oh boy! All the enjoyment of the original thrown out the window with terrible setup, overcomplicated control that uses both the Kinect sensor and the controller. Yes, you have to use both, and unfortunately the controller actually complicates it to the point where it's not enjoyable. So you actually use the original 360 controller to move your Mac, but you have to use the motion control of the Kinect to navigate around inside, doing various levers and lights and even the self-destruct button, and it just becomes a chore. Avoid this at all costs. Play the original. The fighting game was a bust. Well, maybe wrestling will be better with Hulk Hogan's main event even comes bundled with a Hulk Hogan bandana. There's some decent modes in this game. I do like that it has a randomize feature where you can create your wrestler, as those are kind of fun to see what wonky and silly creations that you come up with. But, you know, had some modes in it that looked promising. And so jumping right into career mode, you know, taking the character that you create, you can quick play, there's exhibition mode, and there's also head-to-head. So there was some things in this game that I think were a good idea. And I think wrestling is kind of a good fit for a Kinect game. And so, you know, having that Hulk Hogan franchise, you know, at the time, still super popular. But when it comes down to it, it was about 50% of getting the moves off. You know, you're half the time you're just wailing on an opponent, just kind of slap them around. But when it came down to pinning, that's when this went south, and I just couldn't get it to properly control no matter what I did. Throwing was 50-50. Half the time I was successful, but it just took all the fun and excitement of a potential of being a good game, a good wrestling game, and just completely destroyed it. I absolutely hated how this game ended up being with the controls. Just, it was a total fail and another disappointing release for the Kinect. Next up is probably my pick for worst Kinect game made, and that's Sonic Free Riders. You know, on paper, great idea. Take, you know, a very iconic franchise, Sega, take that Sonic game and put it into a motion control game for the Kinect. Easy win, right? Nope. Terrible, terrible control. Even from the tutorial, even the menu, moving it around is terrible. It's a chore. And so what you're doing is trying to turn, twist, and even put your hands out to collect rings. And most of the time, the control is dreadful. Being able to just navigate around a well-designed tracks, by the way, is just a chore. It's broken, and it's a perfect example of why the Kinect didn't catch on and continue to be popular. You know, right out of the gate, there was a few good games, but this is an example of how not to do a Kinect game because the control at the end of the day just doesn't work. You know, half the time you are really fighting with that controller to do what you want, to turn, to twist, to grab rings, to throw your weapons. Oh boy, oh my goodness, got so frustrated with playing this game. I could see even, you know, this game is targeted probably towards adults and kids. I could see kids being really frustrated with trying to check this out. Avoid this. This is probably one of the worst Sonic games of all time. Hands down, the worst Kinect game ever made. It is legendary how bad it is. If you truly want to experience the worst of Kinect games, definitely check this. But caution, you are going to be frustrated. So, do you remember any of these? What are your picks? Comment below, and as always, thank you for coming to my channel. I have had so much fun doing videos such as this, where you take games you normally wouldn't play, pull them out, and see how bad they truly are. I do a whole series of this. You may want to check out my other bad games, and I do have a playlist. The link will be below to that. I want to just thank everybody for the ongoing support, as I've just passed 1,000 videos, and I really enjoy making content for you. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell, as I upload new videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you have a good day.